The world didn't always start the year on January 1st. Some people began it when a river flooded. Others put out every flame to stop the universe from ending. Millions still welcome the new year when the moon, not the sun, says it's time. This is the history of New Year, from ancient calendars to the one on your wall. Akitu. Around 2000 BCE, the Sumerians in Mesopotamia celebrated Akitu, the earliest known New Year festival. It marked the spring equinox, when the Tigris and Euphrates flooded and renewed the farmlands. Babylonians later adopted Akitu, tying it to the first days of their month Nisan. The festival lasted 12 days, combining religious rituals and political ceremony. Kings reaffirmed their divine authority, crops were blessed, and creation myths were recited. The timing reflected survival, food cycles, not calendars. It was the new year before time was something you could print. Wepet Renpet. In Egypt, the new year came with the Nile's flood. They called it Wepet Renpet, the opening of the year. It usually fell in mid-July when the star Sirius, Sopdet, first appeared before dawn. That sight meant the river would soon rise, bringing life to the land. Temples held offerings to the gods, especially Osiris and Hapi. Sirius's return was the Egyptian clock, steady, celestial, and crucial. No fireworks, just the sound of a river saving a civilization. Greek New Year. The Minoans on Crete marked the new year around the autumn equinox. It was tied to the grape harvest and fertility rituals of their goddess figures. Later Greek city-states each had their own versions. Athenians began the year after the summer solstice in the month Hekatombion. Spartans preferred autumn when agricultural work paused. It was less about counting time, more about managing crops, taxes, and sacrifices. Calendars were political tools, not just ways to mark birthdays. Lunar New Year. The Chinese New Year, known as the Spring Festival, began more than 3,000 years ago during the Shang Dynasty. It followed the lunar calendar starting on the second new moon after the winter solstice. Ancient rituals honored heaven, ancestors, and household gods. People cleaned their homes to sweep away misfortune and hung red decorations to ward off evil. Firecrackers came later, a symbolic weapon against the monster Neon. The celebration evolved, but the idea stayed constant. New year, new cycle, new chance. Nowruz. Nowruz, meaning new day, began with the Zoroastrian religion in ancient Persia, at least 2,500 years ago. It marked the spring equinox, symbolizing renewal and light's victory over darkness. Homes were cleaned, fires lit, and the half-seen table was prepared. 7 symbolic items beginning with the Persian letter S. Kings held public audiences. People exchanged gifts. After centuries, it spread far beyond Iran into Central Asia, the Caucasus, and parts of the Balkans. Nowruz survived empires, religions, and calendars. It still begins the same way, with light returning. Rosh Hashanah. The Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah, originated in the ancient Levant. It began as a harvest festival marking the 7th month of the Hebrew calendar, Tishrei. Over time, it became a solemn spiritual new year, a day of reflection and judgment. The shofar, a ram's horn, is blown to awaken the soul and signal renewal. Dates and apples dipped in honey mark the wish for sweetness in the coming year. It's not about the calendar turning, it's about people turning. Roman New Year. Before Julius Caesar's reform, the Roman year started in March. That matched the agricultural season, new crops, new soldiers. The first day of each month was the kalends, but March 1st carried special weight. In 46 BCE, Caesar introduced the Julian calendar, shifting the start to January 1st. The month honored Jonas, god of doors and beginnings, who looked both forward and backward. Romans celebrated with feasts, visits, and offerings. It became the foundation of the Western New Year, though at first few took it seriously. Samhain. The Celts marked their year's end at Samhain, around November 1st. It was the boundary between the harvest and the cold season. Fires were lit, animals brought in, and the dead were remembered. It was a time outside time, when the veil between worlds thinned. Later it influenced All Saints' Day and Halloween. In Celtic life, the New Year wasn't celebrated, it was endured. Hindu and Indian New Years. India never had one single New Year. Different regions followed solar, lunar, or lunisolar calendars. Ugadi and Gudi Padwa fall in March or April in southern and western India. Vaisakhi marks the New Year in Punjab and parts of North India, also a harvest festival. Diwali, in some traditions, marks the New Year with lights and renewal. Each reflects local rhythms: monsoon, planting, reaping, resting. Many Indian calendars reset not by the sun or moon, but by rain. Mayan and Aztec New Years. In Mesoamerica, both Mayans and Aztecs tied the New Year to astronomical precision. The Mayans used the Hab, a solar calendar of 365 days. When it reset, they performed cleansing rituals and extinguished old fires. The Aztecs called it Sumolpili, the binding of the years. Every 52 years, they would put out every flame and relight a new sacred fire. To them, the world had to be renewed or risk destruction. Their new year wasn't about counting forward, it was about surviving another cycle. Byzantine New Year. In the Byzantine Empire, the new year began on September 1st. It marked the end of the agricultural cycle and the beginning of the ecclesiastical year. Church services prayed for good harvests and protection from natural disasters. The date spread across Orthodox regions and still defines their liturgical calendar. When Western Europe shifted to January 1st, Byzantium stayed with the rhythm of the land. Even time, it seems, had a religious border. Hijri New Year. In 622 CE, the Prophet Muhammad's migration from Mecca to Medina, the Hijra, defined the start of the Islamic calendar. The year begins on the first day of Muharram, a lunar month. There's no set season since the lunar year is shorter than the solar one. Each year it drifts by about 11 days through the Gregorian cycle. For many Muslims, it's a quiet observance marked by reflection and prayer, not celebration. The new year is spiritual, not seasonal. Enkutatash. In Ethiopia, Enkutatash means the gift of jewels. It falls around September 11th at the end of the rainy season. The date corresponds to the first month of the Ethiopian calendar, Meskeram. It also celebrates the Queen of Sheba's return from her visit to King Solomon. According to tradition, people exchange flowers, sing, and visit family. Enkutatash reminds Ethiopians that renewal starts after endurance. Songkran. In Thailand, Laos, and parts of Myanmar and Cambodia, Songkran marks the solar new year in mid-April. Traditionally, it involved water poured over Buddha statues and elders' hands for blessing. It later evolved into large-scale water fights and parades. The date aligns with the sun entering Aries, an echo of ancient Indian astrology. Songkran is both sacred and soaked, a literal washing away of the past year. Shogatsu. Japan's New Year, Shogatsu, once followed the lunar calendar. In 1873, the Meiji government adopted the Gregorian system, fixing it on January 1st. Families clean homes, hang pine and bamboo decorations, and eat osechi ryori, symbolic New Year foods. Temples ring bells 108 times to purify human desires. The streets go quiet, trains pause, even time seems to bow for a few days. It's a calm celebration of stillness before the next rush. Gregorian New Year. The global New Year most people recognize, January 1st, comes from the Gregorian calendar, adopted in 1582 by Pope Gregory XIII. It corrected drift in the Julian system, realigning the year with the solar cycle. Many countries adopted it over centuries, often reluctantly. By the 20th century, it became the world's civil standard. Today, fireworks mark midnight from Sydney to New York. Clocks tick, confetti falls, people make promises they'll forget by February. It's not tied to the stars, floods, or harvest, just to the idea of starting over.